Welcome back to Bloodstock TV. I am sitting here with the one, the only Dave Ellefson, who has joined us here on the sofa. Very, very pleased to have you, man.
Thank you.
How are you?
Great.
We're celebrating Lemmy and Motorhead this weekend, and I saw you walking around, and I was like, this man must have some stories of being out with Motorhead over the years. And like starting off, I just want to ask you, what age were you when you first kind of stumbled across Motorhead, and what did they mean to you?
So it's probably 15, maybe 16. And that was a really pivotal time. I had a little band in Minnesota where I grew up, and there was a guitar player in the town north of us that he was the guy who could play. So he joined our band, and he turned me and my band on to like Diamond Head, Motorhead, Tank, Tigers Pantang, the first Def Leopard record, where Rick Allen was like, I don't know, 15 or 16 years old. And quite honestly, that album is what made me and my friends go, we can do this, because we were the same age, right? Def Leppard was so young. And then, of course, along with it, I think probably Ace of Spades was the first Motorhead record that came in the band rehearsal room. And then immediately followed by Live at, No Sleep Till Hammersmith.
Sure, yeah, classic.
And then Bomber, of course. So those were the, kind of that whole era. And then, the Scorpions, Black Sabbath with Ronnie James Dio. So that was my era, kind of 78 to 80, those records in that era. And I got turned on to them probably around 80 or 81.
Right, the golden era.
That was it, man. Well,
Dave, you being a bass player, and obviously Lemmy being a bass player, did you ever kind of look at that Rickenbacker and be like, God damn? Did you ever consider Rickenbacker?
I had a Rickenbacker, and Rickenbacker, I should say it properly. I had one, and it turns out I had a couple of very rare basses. My very first one was a Gibson EBO that I bought because in the back of the Kiss records they said Kiss used Gibson guitars. So of course I needed one, and then I got it, and it didn't sound anything like Kiss, and I was very disappointed. But then I learned how to play on that, and then I got a Dan Armstrong acrylic bass that my dad bought for me. And then I immediately got the Rickenbacker. In fact, I think I traded the Gibson EBO for that. It was like $350 or something. Wow. It was used, and it had the like your shoes. It had the checkerboard binding, which was a very rare.
Do you still have this?
I don't. And it was red. It was red. Wow. I had to cut the they get the two pickups, right? And it has that bridge cover over the back pickup, which she had to either play in front of her or behind it. So I took one of my dad's pipe saws and I sawed it off and got rid of it.
Like a Frankenstein.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it was great. I loved that bass. And then, I moved into BC Rich and other stuff that was kind of more my thing. But, when I saw Lemmy playing it, of course, that through the Marshall, was a sound. And it would take many years later, Metal Allegiance, another group that I have, we had a run of dates in early January. What year did Lemmy pass?
2015.
So this would have been January of 16.
Right.
And he passed over, the day after Christmas or something, I think,
like that. It was close to his birthday.
Yeah, it was very kind of unexpected because they had a big party for him at the Whiskey. Everybody was there. And then he passed right after Christmas. And then our shows were like 10 days later.
Wow.
And so the Whiskey, which also owned the Rainbow, they called us and they said, hey, would you guys be the tribute to Lemmy band, that like the house band. We kind of flipped our set list with Metal Allegiance to basically be mostly a Motorhead set. So like Mickey D came, Corey Taylor, a bunch of people came and joined us. And what I realized learning a bunch of Motorhead songs in a way that I never knew as a kid learning them is that, Lemmy played the bass like an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
Is because he was a singer bass player. It's similar to Phil Lynot's. Bass players that were singers as well as bass players, they played with the plectrum. Maybe
it's just easier to do the two. I think.
It's this thing, right? Where you're, you're doing two different sides of your brain. But Lemmy really played more like an acoustic guitar player, It was like da da digga digga da digga da. Yeah, and it was the way he strummed and his upstrokes on things was much more like how an acoustic guitar player would play, and it really changed my whole scope about him. You know, when you learn songs from somebody, you kind of try to find where's the heart of who they are, right? What is their thing?
Yeah.
And that, to me, that's when it clicked. And then every Motorhead song after that, I kind of just clued into that, and it became a lot easier to learn because I didn't just think about the bass part. I thought about what he's singing over top of it, because as a Paul McCartney, Gene Simmons, Phil Lynott, Lemmy, these iconic bass players, they're also lead singers. So for them, the bass isn't just the only thing that they do. So to me, you kind of have to take the whole package. So Lemmy is a singer as well as just a bass player.
Yeah, absolutely. As well as many other things, as well as we found out later on. So just aside from that, you just tell me everything that you have going on now as well with yourself. You've got quite a few projects.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, look, I filled in for Overkill earlier this year for my buddy Didi. Same thing here. Paulo from Sepultura hit me about Cultura Trace. And I first heard Cultura Trace, Slash put me and Frank Bello. We have another band.
Frank's here today.
Yeah, he's here today with Satyricon. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. So we played at Paulo's Bar in Amsterdam, the BRO20. So we did that back in 2019. And then I played there again last year with Dieth after we played the festivals and stuff. I'd heard Cultura Trace a few years ago. I loved it. I thought it was very cool sound. So when Paulo asked me to do it, I said, no problem. So, plus this is a great place to be through the summer, to be in Europe and it's where the festivals are. So, so then after this, I've got, Kings of Thrash tour.
Yes.
In the UK.
Oh, yeah. And you're coming to Ireland with that as well.
Yes, Ireland, Edinburgh. So doing that. And then we're going to Europe to do a tour. And then I'm bringing Dieth with me on that one. So I'll have to have 2 T-shirts that night. One for Dieth and then one for
I got to say,
Kings
that
Thrash.
Dieth album is just phenomenal.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. I spoke to you. You probably don't remember millions of interviews. But go for it. That album is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
And fingers crossed. There's going to be another one. It's not just a one and done.
No, we're working on it now. Working on it now.
Well, awesome. Well, look I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I'm really, really pleased that I managed to catch you to bring you in here, and it was great to just get a little bit of an insight into your experience with Lemmy and all that sort of stuff. And so wishing you the best of luck with everything going forward. You've got lots going on. So Kings of Thrash. That is towards the end of this year, isn't it? October. Kings of Thrash in Ireland and the UK and everything else that's going on. So you have a website or something like that. People go in and just keep track of everything that you're
DavidEllefson.com. We'll take you wherever.
Yeah.
It's the roadmap. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Awesome.